Hello and welcome to this week's EZIRA Hangout number 15 with your host Harrison McLean on the 15th of July 2018. It's great to have everybody here, and let's jump into this week's project updates. But first, what is EZIRA? EZIRA is a protocol for blockchain social media with a decentralized exchange and a peer-to-peer marketplace. Users can make posts on boards, groups, or profiles and encrypt them to make them private. Businesses can create crypto assets to represent voting power and distribute revenue. Merchants can list products for sale and receive free and virtually instant payments from customers. Users earn rewards when they post valuable content, earn tips, and can charge micropayments to access premium content. Supernodes earn rewards for providing file storage through IPFS. The EZIRA protocol earns revenue by selling account membership, post promotion, and charging trading fees. Every EZIRA interface can choose which content to display and how to sort it. The protocol has no censorship. Users can choose which identity to use for posting, whether it be their full profile, their persona account, or anonymously. And EZIRA users and applications that create accounts for new users will earn an ongoing share of the revenue from those users. Welcome everybody who is new to the EZIRA Hangout. We'll just take you through this week's project updates. This week in the EZIRA project we have a major update to the EZIRA preliminary ICO. The preliminary ICO will be completing on the 1st of September. So that leaves approximately 6 weeks left in this round of the EZIRA's funding. Starting after this hangout, directly after this hangout, for a period of 2 weeks, the price of EZIRA will be discounted to 60 cents bitUSD each, and the equivalent price across all of the other base pairs that EZIRA trades against. After this, all remaining EZIRA will be sold at 75 cents bitUSD. And this week's auction will reduce its minimum price to 25 cents per EZIRA. So previously it was stated that this week the minimum price would be removed. This has been an oversight by the EZIRA team. So instead we'll be reducing the minimum price to 25 cents for this week's weekly auction rather. And next week we will have the minimum price removed and the issuance of 10,000 EZIRA. So the EZIRA issuance will be increased back to 10,000 per week, and the minimum price will be removed starting next week. So that means that there will be 10,000 EZIRA up for grabs to all of the bidders in the EZIRA Weekly Auction as the EZIRA preliminary ICO comes to a powerful close. So there is only 700,000 EZIRA remaining. And over the next couple of days there will be some major media outreach by the EZIRA project in order to raise awareness of the project with the wider community, in addition to fundraising from selected companies that are in discussions at this point in time. Next up this week is the EZIRA node software development. EZIRA will soon have a new chain operating on the alpha prototype for the creation of test assets. The testnet chain will be developed from the Steam blockchain as a basis and upgraded with new features. You can try the alpha prototype at alpha.ezira.io. And last in this week's project updates is the foundation. So the EZIRA Foundation has been created as a non-profit public company that has been established in Australia for the development of the EZIRA blockchain protocol, and will have the object of bringing the EZIRA ecosystem to the world to enable everybody to share information and value freely. So that is a small legal structure that has been created in Australia as a non-profit company for the purposes of developing the EZIRA ecosystem. So next up on this week's agenda is the alpha walkthrough. So what we'll be doing is taking a walkthrough of the EZIRA alpha so that everybody can get a good idea of what exactly has already been put out by the EZIRA project in terms of the alpha prototype that is publicly live today, which you can interact with using your Steam account. So I'll take you through the EZIRA Hangout thread in the new EZIRA Alpha, which uses a fork of busy.org to represent the interface that will be used by EZIRA, and currently connects to the Steam blockchain. So we'll go through this week's Hangout thread, which includes the EZIRA Build the Next World video. So for those on YouTube, we'll go through this video here, which you can see on this week's EZIRA Hangout thread.
Drifting through a memory. Wake up in your crystal sky. Floating till we
So that's EZIRA Build the Next World. For those who haven't seen that before, that is the main EZIRA video that describes what the EZIRA project aims to achieve in a value sense and in a principle sense. So as we go further through the thread, we can see the update about the EZIRA price discount, which will be lasting strictly for 2 weeks, starting from after this hangout, and after that the price will be increased from there to 75 cents per EZIRA for the remainder of the preliminary ICO. So the previously offered pricing structure is being reformatted for the remaining 6 weeks of the preliminary ICO to enable as many investors as possible to gain a sizable stake in the EZIRA protocol before we close off the preliminary initial coin offering. So for those who are new to EZIRA, the EZIRA asset on bitshares represents EZIRA on the mainnet, and those will be exchanged using a share drop mechanism. So that means that your address on bitshares will be able to be imported into the EZIRA mainnet chain, and from there you will be able to access your EZIRA assets in the Genesis block. So it'll be using the same mechanism as the EOS blockchain, except with your existing bitshares account rather than your Ethereum address. So why someone might consider holding the EZIRA asset is to access EZIRA rewards, because every account that holds EZIRA for 4 weeks and is active, which means they claim 1 activity reward in the preceding 4 weeks, earns a share in EZIRA coin rewards. So 20% of all issued EZIRA coin will be distributed to EZIRA holders to provide a reward for ownership. Network revenue: EZIRA earns revenue from promoted posts, memberships, and trading fees. So unlike the Steam blockchain, accounts on EZIRA will actually be able to pay interfaces through a distributed protocol to promote their post across their interfaces, and those interfaces will earn a share of the post-promotion payment, and the remainder of the funds will be bought and burned, destroying EZIRA coin and increasing its value. The same is true of memberships, so membership assets will be able to be bought from the decentralized exchange, and the EZIRA coin received will be destroyed, reducing its supply. Trading fees do much the same thing, and all of these act to increase the value of EZIRA coin by transferring value from the fees in the mechanism to the holders of its ecosystem assets. So EZIRA offers incentives for new users to be introduced to the blockchain, and growth in users represents a growth in the value held in the EZIRA asset to access voting power and network resources, because all EZIRA voting power holders will have access to the transaction throughput using delegated proof of stake. So the more EZIRA and EZIRA power you hold, the more transaction throughput you'll have, and the greater access to the IPFS integrated storage your account will have, and all of the smart contracts that you create on chain will have. So yeah, the EZIRA asset is powered by bitshares, and on the EZIRA Hangout thread you can create a bitshares account using the referral link there to the exchange interface that is hosted by EZIRA. And there you can access the explainer video, which was made some time ago now, that explains EZIRA in a bit more depth than the Build the Next World video and the video of last week's Hangout. So this is a demo of the EZIRA Alpha, which is currently live, and we'll be getting into the main piece of the Hangout thread, which was the comment created that will reward a random upvoter with 50 EZIRA and 50 bitshares. So many people commented their bitshares address below to enter the competition, and one of those will be randomly selected. So comments on that thread will be valid. So what we'll do is we'll generate a random number and then go down that many comments. So how many are there here? Looks like there's one. Looks like there's 9 entrants to the competition for this week. So we will generate a random number live between 1 and 9, and that winner will be receiving 50 bitshares and 50 EZIRA. So we'll go to random.org. And between 1 and 9, and I'll generate 5 and use the 5th number. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 5th number is the 4th entrant to the competition for this week. So we'll count down from the top to number 4. And that is 1. Okay, so this week's winner of 50 EZIRA and 50 bitshares is Cychol1. Congratulations, Cychol1. You have won 50 EZIRA and 50 bitshares. Thanks for entering this week's Hangout thread competition. And that address can be seen here in the Hangout. And that pretty much finishes up this week's Alpha demonstration. But first we'll check if there's any interesting questions or topics listed in the comments here. We have Mirror of Time, who said that if this ICO community and developing team is strong, then we'll definitely go to Moon. We have Null to Null, who says it seems to be an attractive ICO with maximum supply of 10 million only, but I think it's a risky gamble to start with EZIRA at the moment because they really need to prove themselves to be a utility token for the future. So EZIRA is not a utility token. It's a mistake that has been made there. Creating hype hardly increases the price value because most of the ICOs already turned into scams. I wish the best to management and will surely purchase once it is listed on some credible crypto exchange only. So bitshares exchange is the most credible exchange in the entire world. All trades are executed on an open, permissionless, and decentralized blockchain. In fact, it is the most credible exchange in the entire world. No other exchange operates with such transparency. There's no other exchange I'd rather list EZIRA on first than bitshares. And it is not a utility token to address the concerns of null to null. 012345 has said, "This is an article worth sharing. Thank you. I hope we can be friends and pay attention to me and vote for me." We will see how that goes. Then we have brother, where to get EZIRA. So to answer Mizan570's question, where to get EZIRA, you can access the EZIRA prototype at alpha.ezira.io, where you can access the Steam blockchain using the EZIRA interface. And the EZIRA testnet is currently in development, so it will soon be using a new blockchain and have its own unique post history. And that pretty much... oh no, there's a few more. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the EZIRA Hangout thread for this week. And we will head back to the Discord for discussion. So we'll go into the EZIRA discussion topics first, and then go into the exchange walkthrough to give everyone a chance to have some discussion. Is there any topics or questions that anybody here in the Hangout wants to ask or bring up today? In that case, we'll go through to the discussion topics, and we'll start on those. So the first EZIRA discussion topic for this week is, what will the EZIRA user experience be? So the EZIRA user experience will be accessing a dynamic and responsive web application, or desktop application, or mobile application. It'll be cross-platform from the initial mainnet launch. So each application will access the EZIRA blockchain using a single either profile account or persona account. So people will make an account without requiring any phone numbers, without requiring any existing social media credentials. Each account will be independent and will require no personal information for a persona account. And for a profile account, people will have the option of including whichever personal information they'd like. So there'll be no required personal information on a profile account. There'll just be the ability to put it in. Persona accounts won't have that. So the EZIRA user experience will be highly customizable. People will be able to browse posts from either feeds or boards, among many other options. So people will, unlike other social media networks, they'll have the ability to customize the ranking algorithm of the posts that they're viewing. So at the moment, there's a lot of money in basically messing around with the parameters that rank posts on social media in order to influence which ones get seen. And it doesn't offer users a lot of customizability. In fact, the algorithm is almost always closed source and completely indecipherable, because it's powered by all manner of machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms that essentially use personalized profile information that's extracted from a massive base of sources to put posts that are going to cause the most user retention. So this mechanism of extracting value is not what the EZIRA user experience is designed to do. At EZIRA and on EZIRA, users will be able to customize the ranking algorithm that sorts their posts, so they can choose whether to view content, whether it's had more views or more upvotes or more shares. In fact, the algorithm for that will be completely customizable with parameters and presets. So people will have a massive amount of choice and power over the way that they view their posts, and the way that other people are able to access their content. So it won't be chosen between a very small number of sorting options like it is on Steemit. There will be the ability to put in different numbers and play with the numbers if people choose to do so. So for those who don't want to do that and just want a more simple experience, there'll be presets that allow people to choose between whether it be the hot algorithm or top, or many of the others that are listed in the EZIRA technical manual. And that technical manual is available by emailing harrison@ezira.io for further discussion. It's not listed on the website to try and direct more people to the white paper, but that is available upon request, which contains all of the formulas and mathematics behind the EZIRA sorting algorithm that will be used, especially the parameterization of how those posts are sorted. So the other parts of the user experience will be viewing images in line. So on Steam, for example, in order to see images the way it is now, you have to open the post up in order to see the images. On EZIRA, those will be much larger, so they'll be able to be scrolled through a bit easier. Instead of the way it is now, where it's more of a link focus, on EZIRA the image or media will be above the content that you're viewing, and the description and title and things like that will be below it. So it'll be much more image focused, much more clean and fluid in its design, and people will have a much wider range of choice for how they view their content. So people can either view content from boards, which will have customizable CSS, or from feeds, which choose content from a specific list of uploaders. So the people that you're subscribed to, that you're following, that you're connected with, and things like that, will all be options for EZIRA feeds, and the EZIRA home feed will combine together a wide variety of accounts that you've followed and connected to, and things like that. In addition to the boards that you're subscribed to and the tags that you're subscribed to. The home feed will be a collection of all the things that you've specifically followed, and boards will be a selection of the best content that has been posted to the blockchain. So people will have a large amount of choice with how they view the content. Instead of having all articles, instead of having all content formatted the same way as an article like it is on Steemit, they use the same blockchain object called a comment to represent all the content posted to the chain. They make no differentiation between whether something uploaded is an image or a video, or a small micro content, or a micro blog like a tweet, for example. Everything is formatted the same way, and it's not easy to browse passively. You've got to go into each post individually and open them all up. There's no way to just scroll through like there are on many other platforms. So that'll be something that is going to be changed in EZIRA, because long posts will be formatted differently from short posts, and they'll be formatted differently from rich media content like videos and images, and audio as well. So that's the EZIRA user experience. Next topic we'll go into is the EZIRA market potential. So the EZIRA investment thesis really outlines the market potential that's possible for the EZIRA blockchain to replace even a small slice of many different industries simultaneously, because it includes a decentralized exchange and a social media network and a marketplace simultaneously. They work quite well together on a blockchain. Because those things are combined into one chain that doesn't require any implementation of software from the user, that means that any business will be able to just walk into an EZIRA application and create a completely decentralized digital business within a couple of minutes. So this will be something that will be similar to if you had a Facebook account with a built-in eBay account and a built-in stock exchange account, except they'll all be united under the one address and have access to decentralized storage as well. So that combines together a lot of different industries, and even if only small segments of those industries are reached, the market potential is still in the billions of dollars. In terms of the advertising revenue that's generated by companies like Facebook and Twitter and all the others, they generate billions in advertising revenue off of selling, wholesale selling human attention and human interest, without any compensation for their users that actually generate them the value and generate the content that people access. So I recently did a bit of a tweet thread about how businesses will be replaced by protocols using blockchain technology, because that's essentially what a blockchain is. It's a protocol that specifies business logic that is enforced without any government being necessary or any government being involved. So EZIRA aims to be the protocol that defines social media, that defines decentralized exchange, and defines peer-to-peer product trading all on the same chain, so that people don't need to create smart contracts for all the easy stuff, all the stuff that should be available to a protocol by default as a defined transaction object. Projects like EOS are doing great things, but what happened on Ethereum, for example, is there's a lot of overlapping projects. So the majority of the projects on Ethereum that are doing any good are usually doing a small handful of things. They're doing things like prediction markets, or they're doing things like decentralized exchange, or they're doing things like advertising. And a lot of those features that multi-million dollar projects, multi-million dollar projects, ICOs for those, could have been included as a transaction type on the chain that didn't need an entire smart contract and an entire token for each individual component. It would be like if you tried to build an operating system and every item on the menu was made by a different company and had its own type of money to access. So things that are weird and wacky and innovative can be made with smart contracts, but I think the simple stuff like creating an asset, like exchanging those assets, like buying and trading products on a marketplace with mediation, and issuing content on a blockchain network, things like that should be defined in the base protocol instead of having 1,000,001 ICOs to do the same thing. So that's my view on Ethereum being too general and having too much overlapping competition between different protocol implementations. When for the simple stuff, I think a standard should be created that can be followed without any programming knowledge, just by creating an asset or creating a post or creating a product listing, for example. That's my view. So next topic for this week is going to be how EZIRA shares voting power between EZIRA and EZIRA Power, and the liquidity options that are present between those two. So for those who have read the EZIRA Whitepaper, and particularly the latest EZIRA Whitepaper, you'll see that the Whitepaper offers voting power to both EZIRA and EZIRA Power holders. So there are two different ways of gaining voting power on the network that have different parameters. EZIRA has a fixed supply of 10 million, whereas EZIRA Power has an open-ended supply that is issued at 10 million per year. So the EZIRA coin asset is inflated at a rate of 10 million units per year, whereas EZIRA has a fixed supply. So this offers different economic dynamics, but both assets ultimately hold voting power. So each one has voting power that is equal to its value with respect to the other. So the same amount of money or value held in EZIRA has the same amount of voting power as an equivalent value worth of EZIRA. For example, because the voting power is determined by the relative trading price from the network witnesses' price feeds. So the network witnesses transmit a price feed similar to the way that the Steam blockchain has a price feed for the Steam dollar. There will be a price feed for the exchange rate between EZIRA voting power and EZIRA Power voting power. And the different liquidity options between them will be that EZIRA is always liquid, but the voting power and dividend, the reward earning potential of EZIRA is actually scaling up over a period of 4 weeks, but you can always trade it. Whereas EZIRA Power gets all of its voting power and earning potential straight away, but it takes 4 weeks to divest. So one, you lock up the liquidity at the start and get immediate voting power access, and the other one requires you to hold it for 4 weeks before it accesses its full voting power. So there's two ways you can either get illiquid voting power or liquid voting power that has a delay associated with it. So that's the difference between EZIRA and EZIRA Power, and the asset being sold now on the bitshares exchange is EZIRA itself, the one with the fixed supply. So that means that unlike a lot of ICOs, the EZIRA asset is not inflated away over time by things like mining or things like proof of stake issuance, because its supply is fixed, and EZIRA coin will be generated or issued from a supply of 0. So there'll be no EZIRA coin that'll be issued to platform value contributors from the start. So that's the trade-off between EZIRA and EZIRA Power, and it's up to each person to consider their need for liquidity and how they wish to engage with the EZIRA blockchain. So next topic is the EZIRA Executive Board and the EZIRA Foundation. So the EZIRA Executive Board is an international elected body that exists from an on-chain account called the EZIRA main account. So the EZIRA main account will have the name EZIRA on the EZIRA mainnet, and that will act as the essentially the governance address in a limited capacity for the EZIRA blockchain. So the EZIRA Executive Board will have some limited powers to create and issue EZIRA credit. So that's the only major power that the EZIRA Executive Board has, is the ability to issue EZIRA credit to fund the development of the project in the long term. And the EZIRA credit asset only has value because it is rebought from network revenue. So network revenue comes in and buys EZIRA credit up at face value, and that provides value that can be distributed with the EZIRA Executive Board, which is an elected on-chain body of people around the world. So the 8 positions of the Executive Board will have essentially the ability to coordinate the EZIRA team at large, but they will not have any power over any transactions on the blockchain, nor will they have the power to actually create hard forks, unlike the powers of the Ethereum Foundation, which effectively have the ability to hard fork at will, and Steemit.inc, for example, which has the ability to basically create Steem hard forks at will as well. So the EZIRA Executive Board will be much more decentralized than the private companies that are running many blockchain networks today, and the coin holders will actually have voting power over who those individuals are, so they'll be accountable to the asset holders all around the world. On an annual basis, those will be elected positions, and they'll have limited powers to allocate some of the network revenue, but they will not have any issuance of EZIRA coin to that account. So there's no hard-coded address, there's no dev fee effectively like Zcash has. All the recipients of EZIRA coin are either elected or voted by users in some way. There's no fixed development fee or founders fee or anything like that. Last topic for this week is the EZIRA Pioneer distribution, which is a new addition to the EZIRA Whitepaper, which stipulates that some of the funds that were initially allocated to the EZIRA share drop will be reallocated into the EZIRA Pioneer distribution. So this will be prizes of 5,000 EZIRA issued to 50 influential accounts that are able to gain early followings, that are able to generate business addresses, or business accounts rather, that have a high trading volume. They'll be issued to accounts that generate a high amount of content rewards, and 2 other mechanisms that are featured in the EZIRA Whitepaper that I won't go into for now. So the EZIRA Pioneer distribution will be awarded 1 year after the launch of the mainnet to accounts that generate a large amount of early value for the network, so that there can be a healthy community that receives an allocation of EZIRA once it is being created and around for a year after launch. So I think what we'll do is we'll bring in some community discussion. So if anyone has any questions or comments about anything that's been discussed today, we'll have some open community discussion about the EZIRA project and what the future holds for the EZIRA community. So does anyone have any questions or topics I'd like to bring up? So we have Serby who's asking, can I send more bitshares for bid now? Yes, you can. So the EZIRA Weekly Auction is open for bids. So you can send bitshares or bitUSD to the EZIRA account on bitshares to enter this week's weekly auction. So the amount being distributed has increased to a maximum of 10,000, and this week the minimum price has been reduced from 50 cents to 25 cents. And next week there will be no minimum price, so we'll be distributing all 10,000 EZIRA to the bidders in next week's weekly auction. But for this week, in the interests of community fairness, the previously stated removal of the minimum price this week has been replaced with 25%, 25-cent reduction in the minimum price, and next week that will be no minimum price. We have Genki who has said, can you explain a few things about gateway assets? Thank you, Genki, for that question. So the usage of a gateway asset is a point of importance on all decentralized exchanges. So what a decentralized exchange enables people to do is create assets to represent other assets on different chains. So a gateway asset is operated by an exchange, and each gateway asset is deposited and withdrawn by the exchange operator or exchange service provider, and can then be traded on chain for all other assets. So unlike centralized exchanges, on a decentralized exchange, any trading pair between any assets can be utilized depending on the thickness of the order book. But gateway assets represent chains, represent assets on other chains. So how many cryptos will EZIRA support? The answer is potentially any cryptocurrency that is included for a gateway asset by any exchange service provider is completely valid to be traded on the EZIRA blockchain. So what that means is that other exchange companies and businesses can be created to earn trading fees by trading assets over the decentralized exchange, and they will compete with each other to gain trading volume. So how many gateways EZIRA will run is we'll be running the 6 assets that have been included in the share drop distribution for the start of the network, and then we'll be expanding those very rapidly after that. So what we'll be doing is adding a large amount of crypto assets very rapidly after mainnet launch, so that we can get the trading volume on the EZIRA decentralized exchange up to a high level, and the decentralized exchange will have no trading fees on maker orders. So what that means is that you'll be able to create a market limit order, and that order will have no trading fees associated with it. The trading fees will be paid by the taker order to encourage market makers and liquidity providers to provide thickness to the order books on the DEX. So EZIRA will use a portion of the funding that it has raised to market make on that decentralized exchange to provide liquidity to the users of the DEX. So gateways that EZIRA will run will be at minimum 6, and that will likely be moving up to the vicinity of 20 to 30 within the first year or so. But other companies and other service providers are free to create their own gateways. How often are the reserves rebalanced? So that has not yet been determined. That will be determined according to market conditions once those assets are live and trading. What sort of variance is tolerable on the assets? That's a good question. It depends what you mean by variance, as in price variance or price volatility, or variance between different assets themselves. So the weightings in the reserve, the variance I would estimate on the order of they'll be divided roughly according to market capitalization and adjusted perhaps once every month or so, I think. Does anyone have any other questions for this week's discussion time? We have Jotmax typing something. Feel free to use your microphones if you guys would like to, instead of typing. Makes everything a little bit faster. There we go. Thank you, Jobmax. It hasn't been easy, but it's been very, I would say, compelling to be with such a great community that's come to support this project from the start and help it to reach the point where it's at now. So I'd like to thank the EZIRA team, which has recently been solidified in the EZIRA Foundation. And I'd like to thank all the EZIRA community for helping to build out this project and the profile and the reach that it has at this point. There's only so much that I can do, and it's going to be amazing to see this community grow over the next months and years from the humble beginnings that it has back on this Discord here. And we have Serby typing. What is the competition for winning EZIRA, says Serby. So we'll be getting into the EZIRA competition very shortly. This week's competition is a major shake-up because it has the new prize mechanism of including a bonus based on the winner's holdings of EZIRA. So the more EZIRA you hold, the more you stand to win from the competition. That'll be discussed very soon. And for those of you who are in the Hangout, you're in a good position to win the bonus EZIRA for the first valid entry. So the first valid entry will win a bit of bonus EZIRA, and the winner of the competition will be getting a bonus based on their holdings of EZIRA. So we'll get into that very soon. If there's no more discussion points, we can move into that now, I think.
Hey Harrison, quick question.
Hey,
I noticed hi, good morning. I'm a little under the weather, so that's why I sound terrible.
That's okay.
I noticed this past week that the value against the EZIRA coin had disappeared in the bitshares decks. Can you explain what happened there?
Which value are you referring to there?
Well, it
as
basically
in the buy orders?
It just had nothing paired against it. So when I look at my account, it would normally say, hey, your EZIRA is worth X amount of BTS or bitUSD, and it just was worth nothing for a while.
Okay, I can tell you exactly what that is. When the EZIRA trading volume doesn't have any trades over a certain period of time, it doesn't know what to price the EZIRA asset as. So there was a small drop in EZIRA volume over the last couple of days, but that's come back now. So there's a basis of measurement for the price of EZIRA now. That
Gotcha.
that occurs
Okay.
to all bitshares trading assets. So even there's a lot of assets that dropped down to zero volume for I think it was about 20 something hours where there was no trading volume. Many assets do that. EZIRA has more trading volume than a lot of open ledgers assets, for example. A lot of other projects that have very little trading volume, a lot of exchanges that don't have that much trading volume. EZIRA usually has a bit of trading volume to generate its price point on the DEX, but sometimes that does lapse for a short period. It's just a reflection of the early state of the market, and the price of bitshares in particular rising significantly over the last couple of hours. So traders may have moved from EZIRA to bitshares to capture a rising bitshares, and then they could potentially move back. It's you can never really be sure with these things.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All good. So if there's any more questions, we'll have those. Otherwise, we'll go into the EZIRA competition for this week. So starting immediately after this hangout, we'll be having the EZIRA competition, the first we've had in a little while, and this one is sure to be a cracker. So we'll go into the EZIRA competition for this week. Okay, so this week's EZIRA Twitter competition is as follows. Describe what EZIRA means to you in one sentence, and send a tweet with a link to the EZIRA Telegram channel, Discord server, and this Hangout video. And tag EZIRA Network and hashtag EZIRA to be valid. Then link your tweet entries in the EZIRA competition's Discord with your bitshares address to enter. The tweet with the most likes and retweets on Twitter will win 200 EZIRA, and this is the important part, plus 5% of their total EZIRA holdings. So all of you that hold a fair bit of EZIRA get a decent bonus attached to this. So it's 200 plus 5% of total EZIRA. There are some certain diamond EZIRAns that would do quite well to enter this competition if they win. The winner will be announced in next week's Hangout, and if the winner is present in next week's Hangout, they will win a bonus 100 EZIRA. The first valid entry will win 10 bonus EZIRA and be linked in the EZIRA Hangout thread. So that thread on Steemit will be updated to include a link to the first valid entry that wins 10 bonus EZIRA. So remember to describe what EZIRA means to you in one sentence, and that's a tweet with a link to the Telegram channel, Discord server, and this video. So those three links need to be included in the tweet, and the tag EZIRA Network, @EZIRA Network, and EZIRA. So I'll be making a graphic for this competition very shortly and publishing it all over the EZIRA social media presence. So good luck to everybody, and the first valid entry gets 10 bonus EZIRA, and the advantage of being linked in the EZIRA Hangout thread, which is currently ranked #1 on trending on the Steem blockchain due to the amount of upvotes that it's received. So I'll just include a link to that Hangout thread where people can get a look at the things that I've been reading from and see how that's doing. That's ranked 1 on trending on Steem at the moment due to the massive amount of upvotes that it has received. So this will have a graphic made very soon, and the first valid entry, all the valid entries will be linked in the competitions section of the EZIRA Discord as usual, so that we can keep track of bitshares addresses for the winners and things like that. So this has been the first competition we've had in a little while. Now that the project is back in the swing of things, we're going to kick things off and kick off the brand new discounted fortnight, so 2 weeks of 60 cent discounted EZIRA on bitshares. We're going to kick that off with a competition that's quite simple to enter. What does EZIRA mean to you in one sentence? So we'll move on to the next thing for this week, which is going to be the EZIRA crowdfunding and auction guide merged with the exchange walkthrough. So I'll take everyone through the EZIRA exchange. So to trade the EZIRA asset, and in fact all other bitshares assets, every bitshares wallet can access all trading opportunities on the entire network. So the EZIRA exchange is at exchange.ezira.io, and it's the only bitshares exchange wallet that has open.steam as a base pair. So all the users who are used to having their Steam assets for trading, you can now trade your Steam for a variety of assets on bitshares using the Open Ledger Gateway asset. So it's just like any other exchange that you might have used before. There's a dashboard to show the assets that each account has. And it shows the estimated value of all of those assets based in whichever currency you choose. And the value of those is displayed in line, and unlike many other exchanges, you can actually send value directly between accounts, so you don't need to withdraw it from the exchange in order to send it to someone else. You can just directly send it to someone else. It's an exchange and a wallet at the same time. It's very valuable, and we can see all the bids that have come into the EZIRA Weekly Auction from Emeka Collins, from Honey, from San, One, from Wiljo, from all the members of the EZIRA community who are helping this project to grow and develop. I sincerely thank you. And those assets will be added to the EZIRA Weekly Auction, and you will receive your EZIRA shortly after this hangout. So the auction will be closing 1 hour after the hangout, and the auction sheet will be updated with all of those bids very shortly after the hangout. So to contribute to the EZIRA preliminary ICO, all you have to do is first create a bitshares account, and you can do that by going to exchange.ezira.io, clicking to use the wallet model. The account model is not an ideal user experience, and EZIRA recommends using the wallet model so you have control over your private keys. So create an account using the wallet model. You can create a username in whatever capacity you want your username to be, and from there you have access to a wallet and an exchange at the same time. And the exchange has no KYC, no deposit or withdrawal limits, and it offers you massive amounts of extra freedom compared to other exchanges, which now more often than not requiring identity verification, passports, and the ridiculous meme that is the selfie picture holding a government document. What could be more decentralized than requiring you to personally identify yourself with a government document in order to trade cryptocurrencies? I can think of nothing more ironic and detestable than exchanges now usually requiring people to hold literally a picture of a government document in order to trade cryptocurrencies. Nothing could be further from the ideal of what we're trying to do here. So bitshares has absolutely none of that. It has no ability to seize your assets. It has no ability to freeze your assets. Only selected exchange gateway assets do allow the issuers of those assets to temporarily pause trading, but that happens very rarely. And in exceptional circumstances, Open Ledger recently used it to stop a hack that was in progress that was only based on a DNS hack that wasn't an actual loss of funds on Open Ledger's behalf. So in order to send funds, all you do is press the send button at the top left of the screen there, and you can choose which asset to send and who to send it to. So to contribute to the EZIRA Weekly Auction, all you need to do is type in EZIRA, that's EZIRA in the to field, and acquire bitshares from an exchange of your choice. Ideally, we recommend an exchange that doesn't require ridiculous identity verification before trading, and that is Binance. Binance is the exchange that EZIRA does recommend for acquiring bitshares, and then you can send whichever amount of bitshares you choose, whether it be 10 or whether it be 10,000, it's up to you, but the amount of EZIRA will be distributed proportionately between all bidders at a minimum price of 25 bitUSD cents per EZIRA. So if the price goes higher than that, then it goes higher than that, but if it doesn't, then the minimum price is 25 cents for dividing 10,000 EZIRA. Then you don't need to send a memo or a message, and then after that you simply press send to confirm your bid, and it will be included into the EZIRA Weekly Auction. Alternatively, to purchase EZIRA from the decentralized exchange using an on-chain trading transaction, all you need to do is go to exchange.ezira.io on the EZIRA USD market pair, and from there you can buy EZIRA for its current trading price, and then simply put in your wallet password in the creation of your account, and from there you can make a purchase of EZIRA, and it will then be held in your account as any other asset would be. So after this hangout, the selling price of the EZIRA asset will be reduced to 60 cents for a period of time of 2 weeks, and then after that it will be increased back to a flat rate of 75 cents. So the previously designed progressive pricing structure of $2, $3, and $4 is being rescinded, and that will be a flat price of 75 cents to allow everybody to acquire some EZIRA from the preliminary ICO at a more reasonable price, and we will move some of the larger funding intakes into the main ICO stage of the project once it is more developed and more fully established. So you can also trade EZIRA on the bitshares market. So now it has volume, to answer Iron Monkey's question. It now has 4,000 bitshares of volume, which is more than the trading volume of OpenLedger's Dash gateway asset. So we are trading more heavily on bitshares than Dash right now. Let that sink in. So the EZIRA price in bitshares is 3.98, so you can buy up EZIRA at that price there, and that price will also be reduced to 60 cents equivalent for 2 weeks after this hangout. You can also trade against Ethereum using open.eth. The order book on that asset is not quite as thick, but it is still there. So there's assets being sold for Ethereum and for Bitcoin, open.bitcoin, and for open.steam. So smart media tokens have been in the works for many months now, with no signs of being released anytime soon, no release of a testnet, no communication on the progress of smart media tokens. They've been theorized and talked about for a long time, but the EZIRA asset is, in every sense of the word, a smart media token that has been running successfully for many months now, and is trading against Steam before even smart media tokens are able to. So this is trading against Steam at currently 0.91 Steam is the trading price of EZIRA versus Steam, and that'll be updated accordingly with the price discounting period of 2 weeks. So that's a review and guide to the EZIRA decentralized exchange and how to contribute to the preliminary ICO. So next up we'll move into the final segment of this week, which is the general discussion. We have Sarov Ganguly with his first entry to the EZIRA competition, we have a winner. Sarov Ganguly has answered, EZIRA means decentralized social media with complete user control, freelancing marketplace, and tons of other features to build my next world. I couldn't put it better myself. Congratulations to Sarov Ganguly using the correct tags. Also needs to include a link to the EZIRA Telegram and Discord, and needs to be linked into competitions. Discord to be completely valid. They are fine to put in the comments after that tweet, so just pop a link to the Telegram and the Discord in a tweet replying to that one, and then that should be fine. So that's almost ready, almost valid. Just needs a link in the Discord to the Discord and Telegram, and to be linked into the competitions text channel on the EZIRA Discord. So other than that, we'll move on to the questions and answers and general discussion. So we have open questions for me about any subject, whether it's cryptocurrency in general or EZIRA or any of the other projects that you think are important in the blockchain space at the moment. You can also email me at harrison@ezira.io for any other queries, team role applications, proposals, or business matters. And you can join the EZIRA Telegram channel at www.t.me/EZIRA Network. So does anyone have any other questions or comments or concerns about the EZIRA project or cryptocurrency in general that they'd like to talk about?
Harrison, do you have any comments on the PB asset from EZDEX?
The PB asset from EZDEX. It's a fantastic initiative by EZDEX to allow the trading fees to be distributed to their asset holders, and to my knowledge it's being distributed with a very similar auction mechanism to the EZIRA Weekly Auction. So I commend the EZDEX team on what they've been able to do with fiat currency gateways. I was one of their first liquidity providers. I put a few buy and sell orders onto their US dollar asset, and I'm sure they'll be generating some great trading fee revenue for their holders very soon.
Very good. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Hopefully it picks up.
Yeah, it's been looking very good. I may even consider getting some EZDEX PP tokens and seeing how they go in terms of receiving the trading fee revenue that they've been discussing.
Yeah, the trouble now is that nothing's trading at the moment. So there's
that is the ever-present early concern. It's for every exchange, getting the volume is hard at the start, and then once you have the volume, then it becomes a little bit more easy to get people to trade on your exchange. But the first movers need to be brought into place by some sort of incentive mechanism, because without volume there's no market to make. So there needs to be some sort of mechanism to get people involved. I think some of the projects that are doing this well are CoinX Exchange. They've got a distribution mechanism of CoinX token based on the trading volume of its users, so the more they trade, the more they're able to effectively mine CoinX token, which I think is a very good initiative. They're basically rewarding people for providing trading volume to their exchange. EZDEX probably isn't at the level where they can quite do something like that yet, but it's a good example to consider. Where other exchanges, when they bring a new coin on, they do launch promotion, they do all sorts of competitions I've seen done on Binance and things like that. EZIRA will definitely be having competitions every time we launch a new gateway asset to promote trading volume on those books, in addition to actually providing market liquidity to those books ourselves. The thing is, on a decentralized exchange, it's very difficult to fake the volume because every transaction has to pay bitshares fees. Whereas on a centralized exchange, it becomes much easier to fake volume. So a lot of other exchanges routinely trade against their own books, create the false appearance of volume where it is wash traded, things like that are quite commonplace. There's a whole game to making your exchange look as big as possible so you can charge the most for listing fees. Exchanges are fast moving from a trading fee model where they should be into a gatekeeper New York Stock Exchange style listing fee, basically racket is the word I would use. They're becoming just as restrictive and powerful and just outright profiteering as the exchanges that they were designed to replace, the financial exchanges that they were designed to replace on Wall Street and the world over in the mainstream financial system. They're proving to be no better than the exchanges that exist in the status quo today. So it's incumbent upon the people of the world to remove the middlemen from power by producing software that makes their business into a protocol, and that's what bitshares does, and that's what EZIRA will do. So every business that uses the internet, every business that is it requires the use of the internet can be turned into a protocol. That's what EZIRA will aim to do. Turn as many businesses into a protocol by making available the tools to get started, to get seed capital faster without having to go through VCs, without having to go through all the trials and tribulations. It'll be more of a matter of impressing and gaining customers than it will be impressing and gaining the support of VCs. That's what EZIRA businesses will be enabled to do. So does anyone have any other questions or comments or topics they want to bring up? And I hope that answers your question. In that case, if no one else has any questions or topics to bring up, we'll wrap up this week's Hangout. And immediately after this Hangout, the price of EZIRA will be discounted to 60 cents for the next 2 weeks. So there is only 700,000 EZIRA remaining. I'm sure it will not last at this discounted price. So make sure you get in early and fast before the EZIRA stock is sold out by some of the larger investors that are moving into this project as it matures. We have a foundation that's been created, so the EZIRA team is able to take in potential investment from fiat contributors, but we will always be having the EZIRA asset traded on an open, decentralized exchange. So fiat income, fiat intake for the EZIRA asset is now a possibility. So for those wishing to make direct contributions, you can email the EZIRA team for a direct contribution off the market in any cryptocurrency you'd like for a facilitated purchase. If you aren't particularly fond of the EZIRA bitshares DEX, then you can make a direct purchase using Ethereum or Bitcoin when you email harrison@ezira.io. Facilitated purchases have been a large amount of the funding that has come into EZIRA, and those are available by emailing the team. So if no one else has any business to bring up, we'll finish off the Hangout for this week. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our Diamond EZIRANs for their ongoing support of the EZIRA project, whether they be Dow Street, Meta, bitshares 2010, and all the other Diamond EZIRANs that hold over 10,000 EZIRA. You too can become a Diamond EZIRAN by taking your stake of 10,000 EZIRA into this project, and every Diamond EZIRAN will get access to a large amount of benefits, including a business account included in the Genesis block. They will get a post included in the Genesis block, and they will get 6 months of complimentary Diamond membership. So that's the highest level of EZIRA membership. There will only be a maximum of 10,000 Diamond EZIRANs at any one time, and that membership asset is limited in supply and auctioned off accordingly. So 6 months of free diamond membership at the start of the network is a great benefit, in addition to a multiplier effect to their share drop balances, and access to the EZIRA team via a personal email, and access to the EZIRA team channel on Discord when you hold at least 1000 EZIRA. You can keep up to date with this project by going to the EZIRA Twitter account, following EZIRA on Twitter, by subscribing on YouTube, so hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this week's Hangout and you support the EZIRA project, chuck it a like on YouTube when you see this video. Other than that, thank you to everybody for coming to this week's EZIRA Hangout. My name is Harrison McLean, and good night. Together, we will build the next world. Thank you.